Welcome everybody to Astrology Unplugged. My name is Rick DiClemente. This is week 9 of the 10-week class that I've been teaching. And we interrupted after class 8 and put in the last 2 weeks, which were about the wonderful virus. I'm so tired of hearing about it, and it's so intense that I decided to go back to astrology, which usually makes me feel good. So we're on week 9. We have covered the signs. We've covered the basic planets. We've talked a little bit about the houses. Tonight we're going to continue to do charts of people like you and then charts of people that are real famous. It doesn't matter because I'm looking at the planets' positions. And I'm going to lead you towards starting to interpret. And then week 10 will be our final week next week. And that's going to be about transits and some things that you can look forward to. Because you can't teach astrology in 10 weeks. You can give a little bit of a basic understanding and people can grow from there. But I've tried very hard to give you a good foundation. The readings are based upon my book, which is in the background, called The Exquisite Zodiac, which explains the signs real clearly. So tonight we're going to go into, hello, Wendell. We're going to go into the planets. Now, one thing I wanted to point out to you first, you got to notice things like this. When you're an astrologer, you're going to start to see the world like this. Now, did you notice as in the past couple months, all of a sudden, all these old-time movies and all these futuristic movies show people talking to each other where they could see each other? It was like, wow, that's never going to happen. In the past couple of weeks, everybody's on screen. And what do we see? The first thing we see when we're all able to look at each other is we see how desperate and how how much in pain everybody's in. That's extremely significant. First thing we see. Well, that's really good because the psyche is ready to handle it. It's got a good side to it too, and all the wonderful exchanges that are happening too, all the change in society. So don't ever, how do I say it? Astrology is about the events that are happening, but it's about the underlying energy that create the events. Astrology is a map of those things. So that's why so many people aren't into it, because they don't understand that, because they read the daily horoscopes. You're going to meet a handsome stranger on Friday, that kind of junk. Okay. So we're back to class, and I'm kind of glad because I'm in my element. I have taught you about the signs of the zodiac, about the planetary natures, about the aspects, how one planet combines with another, and about the houses. There's no means you're going to have it all memorized, but I think you all have a little bit better understanding of how astrology is done. Those are the 4 main things. Every planet is in a sign, it's in a house, and it has aspects between it and other planets. Those are the 4 main things. There are hundreds of other things to look for, but those are the main pillars of astrology. Let me get a drink. So tonight we're going to start with Felicia, who's new to us, out of the state of Washington. And I'm going to turn your microphone on, and I may ask you some questions. I'm not going to go very deep at all because that's not what the class is for. The class is for learning astrology. So I've never seen her chart before now. And the first thing I see is she's born May the 3rd of 1982. Now, since she's born at 1:52 in the afternoon, you can prove it to yourself because if you're born between noon and 5 o'clock, the sun should be up here somewhere, and it is. If you were born at noon, it'd be up here. If you're born at sunset, it'll be around here.
I think I might have given you the wrong birth time because my ascendant is at 29 degrees of Leo, so it might be 1:51.
1 minute's not going to change this.
Okay, but in most charts it's 29 degrees of Leo. But
Well,
yeah,
that's a real big deal because if it's Leo rising, then the sun's going to rule the chart. And if it's Virgo rising, then Mercury's going to rule the chart.
it's Leo. So
How do
I
you,
might have given you the wrong birth time
how do you know it's Leo?
because I've looked up my chart on astro.com, Astro
How do you
Deity,
know it's Leo?
because I know my birth time, but I think I might have been off like a minute.
You
I
know,
can check it right
the
now.
chart changes every 3 minutes and 56 seconds. So you'd have to be
It,
over 6 minutes off. You are not Leo rising. You are Virgo.
uh,
Okay. Now, I'm not going to get into it now because that's very advanced stuff.
okay.
Okay. We're just going to go with the chart, and I'm not going to worry about that stuff now. But one way you can tell which rising sign you have is by watching the planet's transit over that point and see, was that a Leo type thing that happened? Was that a Virgo type thing that happened? It's very complex. We're not going to go there now because it's much too complicated. Now, let's get into your chart.
Right.
Um, I don't care if you're Leo or Virgo, but let's start seeing what sticks out in this chart. When you're new, the sun is in Taurus, the moon is in Virgo. So we know you got a double Earth there. She's sun and Earth, moon is in Earth. So we know we don't know everything, but we know that she's very practical. Now I knew right away by talking and looking at her that a sun in Taurus and a moon in Virgo is not going to attend an astrology show unless there's a T-square to Neptune, which there is. See? See the T-square to Neptune? Moon, Mars opposite Venus, all that pushing towards the Neptune. The Neptune is what takes her out of the Earth. When you're all Earth, you don't care about that stuff. You care about money, you care about your couch, you care about your house, the doghouse, cash, food, stuff. You're earthy. You're not going to look up. My dad and I went to Italy, and he was the only one in the history of the Sistine Chapel that never looked up. You look down the whole time. I'm saying, Dad, look. Because he was very, very earthy Capricorn. So I knew you had something in you to elevate you. You had to have a T-square or something strong towards Chiron, maybe towards Eris, maybe towards Neptune. Usually it's Neptune. All right. So we know now from Felicia that she's very down to earth and she's probably really good at her job, keeping track of stuff. But she's got that Neptune in there. And the Neptune makes her spiritual, makes her see beyond just the earth, because the Neptune is exaggerated because it's at the tip of the three-planet triangle called a T-square. Now, the rising sign is either Virgo or it's the sun with Leo rising.
It's 1:41 p.m. I was off by like 10 minutes. It's
That'll
1:41
do it.
p.m.
Now let me fix that now.
Yeah. I had to check it because I have my birth certificate, so I know the time. I don't know why I always do it like 10 minutes off, but
Well, it's very common. Now you got 29 Leo.
that's it right there.
All right.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. Now we got the right one. All right. Now, I'm telling you and everybody else listening, there's no way of knowing when you're born. You can't tell when it's down to 1 minute, 2 minutes. I mean, I watched my child get born. I didn't know, was it the first breath? Was it the umbilical cord? What is it? So I marked down what I could, and you go through life and you test it by working backward. We're not getting into that now. All right. So we know she's very earthy, and she got the Leo rising. So you know the sun is in Taurus, which is fixed earth, and Leo is fixed fire. So we know that this woman can be very stubborn when she wants to be. And she can be very tough, and she's over there biting her lip, so I know I'm right. Okay. The next thing that sticks out very strongly is the Mercury opposite Uranus, because it goes up and down the midheaven. I told you when planets are near this nadir, when planets are near the angles, when it's near the descendant, the midheaven, the ascendant, the nadir, the descendant, the midheaven, when planets are near there, you draw them big. So she's very much Mercury opposite Uranus. Now, I don't care if she's a Taurus or what, she's got Mercury and Gemini. So let's take a look at what that means. Mercury's in Gemini opposite Uranus, okay? Mercury in Gemini is somebody who's very, I don't care what your sun sign is, they're very interested in that. They're very curious about this. They get the news, they got to call somebody. She cannot keep these things to herself. A Taurus can, but not her, because she's so interested. Her mind is lively. And matter of fact, when she goes to bed, sometimes very hard for her to settle her mind down because her mind is very active. Now, it's a very good placement for like sending out a reporter to go dig up this and dig up that and dig this up. Very, very good. But when it's opposite Uranus, an opposition is always going to bring out some of the negativity in that combination. It'll also bring out positivity. When Uranus is involved with Mercury, what you have now is a really agitated mind. Okay? You got a mind that's interested in science. You got a mind that's interested in the internet. You got a mind that's interested in the future. These are all things that are not Taurian. But you got a mind that's really way ahead of itself. But a lot of the times what happens, even though she's got that very careful combination of Sun and Taurus, Moon and Virgo, you got a mind that just jumps to conclusions. She just jumps. She doesn't want to. Her Virgo doesn't want it to happen, but she just does because the mind is so quick. Her mind is really, really fast. On the good side, it means she learns things real quickly. And one thing that Felicia can't stand is somebody over-explaining something to her. She can't stand it because I got it. I got you. Move on. Because her mind, you could show her 1 and you could show her 2, and she doesn't need to see the other numbers. Show her 1, show her 2, and you're done. But if you go 3 and 4 and 5, she'll shoot you because she just can't stand going so slow mentally. So one of the good things about the Mercury-Uranus is it's not too close to the angle. If it were too close, then it would be a major, major part of her personality and probably would be disruptive. She'd probably be dyslexic. She'd probably have slow learning of some kind just because the nervous system is being bombarded. Mercury's your nervous system. So we see in her chart, the Mercury is 8 degrees away. You got 5 more degrees or 4 more degrees of Taurus, and then 3. So it's about 7 degrees away. So that's good. It's not too close. I would not want that Mercury around 26. It's just too strong. That's where you get personalities where they have a trait that's just too strong. Everybody yells at them, but there's nothing they can do. Because you got some cosmic energy just pouring through your nervous system, and most people can't do anything about it. Now, the Uranus is about 8 degrees. All right, now, 7, 8 degrees. So I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit into advanced astrology, into a thing called primary directions. There are other ways of looking into the future. There are other ways of comparing things when they're going to happen, called secondary progressions, etc. But one way is called primary direction. In it, every planet moves 1 degree for every year of life. So the moon would hit Mars around age 6. Saturn would hit Pluto around age 8. The sun would hit Chiron around age 8, 9. You move everything 1 degree per year of life. So we know without a doubt that something big time happened to Miss Felicia around age 8. Because the midheaven hit Mercury, the nadir hit Uranus, this thing hit Mars around age 6. So somewhere around 7 or 8, we know the whole apple cart just got turned over, and it was all done ahead of time. She knew this was coming before she took this birth. Now, would you respond to me, and we don't have to get too personal, but in general, would you tell me what happened around those times?
Um, well, I know I started doing bad in school. Like I stopped caring about school. I guess the big one would be my mom came out as a lesbian.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest one because
Okay. That'll
you know
do
I
it.
didn't understand, but yeah.
Okay.
So that was probably what it was.
What I want to know, and this is how I do future, this is where I look when I'm looking to do life direction.
Mhm.
Around that age, all these things happening, what, beside these events that appear to be happening to other people,
Mhm.
what happened to you? What was your reaction to all this?
Um, Actually, there is one particular incident that happened specifically to me. Um, I was walking to the mailbox. It was like right down the street, like maybe 2 blocks away. And I don't know if this man knew me or not, but he was in a car and like he literally he tried to like
Abduct you?
kidnap me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was
Now,
I was 8. Yeah.
what I want to know, and I'm glad he
Mhm.
didn't. What I want to know is how did you feel about that event?
It was scary.
Okay.
I was scared.
What I'm trying to get to is this. Your life direction, I told you last week, your life direction is based on your early trauma.
Mhm.
So what I'm trying to tell you is this. I don't care what Felicia does for a living. Listen to this closely. I don't care what she does, what she's doing all of her life since she was 8 years old, and she will do until she's 99. What she's trying to do is keep all girls from being kidnapped.
Mhm.
That's the basis of her personality. I have a woman that she's in her 80s now. The father shot the mother while she was watching. She was like 12. The father shot the mother. The mother survived, and they all grew up together. They continued living together. So I'll guarantee you, and I've talked in depth with her, this is what got me on the right track about 15 years ago. What she's doing is going the rest of her life spending it trying to get the guy to stop shooting the mom. Because you don't get over that stuff. You might get more functional, but that's how you find the real trigger to finding out what somebody really is up to. So I don't care what she does for a living, what the underlying theme in her life is, she's going to stop people from taking advantage of others, from abducting another, from taking your power. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Okay. It took a long time to learn it. And that's learned by primary directions, or they're also called solar arcs. All right. Let's go back to the chart. In astrology, the ascendant in this area right here represents where life enters the body. So if you find planets in this area, you just subtract the number of degrees and you'll usually find an event that is symbolized by that planet. Also, this area, because this area is the fourth house, which is the home, and it can represent things that happen in your early upbringing. Now, I will guarantee you that this near abduction happened because something similar to it happened in past lives. And that's why she decided to be born at 1:41 p.m. and not 1:42. Now, let's get back to basic astrology. That's very complex. Now, notice here that you really have to study this triangle. The Venus is opposite the moon, T squared to Neptune. The two emotional planets in the chart are Venus and the moon. Notice that Venus is almost out of Pisces, but not quite. Venus and Pisces is probably the best planet combination you can ever have. Venus is receptive nature, and Pisces, which is loving. This is just the wonderful sign of somebody. When this girl loves you, she loves you, and she means she loves you. And I mean, she ain't thinking about herself. That's unconditional love. Okay? Now, Since it's opposite the moon, which is in Virgo, and I put a lot of emphasis in my book, I put a lot of emphasis in the 6 polarities, and I put special emphasis on the sign of Virgo being opposite Pisces. The Venus is very accepting and loving. The moon is very picky. The Venus is very loving and accepting. The moon is very picky. So which one is it? She goes back and forth between very, very lenient and very picky, then lenient, then picky. Then the Mars is in Libra. This is called out of sign. This is an out of sign conjunction because both planets are not in Virgo. Both planets are not in Libra. They're out of sign. So it weakens the conjunction somewhat. The Mars in Libra is very weak. Why is Mars in Libra weak? All right, notice the fact that if Mars is in Libra, what's right across from Libra? Aries, which is where Mars rules. And the sign opposite the rulership is the detriment, which means the planet is not well planted in Libra. Why? Because your Mars, you want your Mars to get up and smack that ball. Home run, you don't want to bunt. But the Mars in Libra is, oh, I don't want to hurt anybody. Is anybody in the way? Oh, I want to be careful when I start to move. Well, Mars doesn't want to be careful. He wants to go. It's a macho part of you. So we know that you got the Mars and the moon there. You got the Venus over the Pisces, which is very yielding, and it all goes down to Neptune. Neptune's answer to everything is climb up on the cross. Oh, it must have been my fault. I'll go up on the cross. Oh, I can stay here for 10 years, not just 9. I can stay here 11 years. I don't need to eat. I don't need water. No. Sacrificial martyristic. So, isn't it interesting when we look at this chart, you see what I'm trying to tell you is the opposition of Venus and the moon means that when she starts to figure something out mentally, she's very practical, Sun in Taurus, moon in Virgo. She can make very down-to-earth decisions. She can be very practical. And at the last minute, she throws it all out and she makes an emotional decision. Every time. She thinks it through, then she kicks herself. Why in the hell did I give in? Because she's got such a big heart. So, what you see here is a very practical person, which is why I think Virgo is rising. Sun in Taurus, moon in Virgo, very earthy, very practical. But then you got the moon and Venus opposite, and they send their energy, their overused energy or overstressed energy, whatever, to the outlet, which is Neptune. Neptune is love everybody, gives everybody. She's already got a moon in Virgo, which is I'll help you move, I'll help you cook, I'll help you do this. I'm surprised you're not a nurse. I'm real surprised at it. So what happens is, what your chart is about, we already know that the essence of your chart, now I didn't get it by myself, I asked her. I got the number 8, and I asked her. She told me she was almost abducted. Well, abduction is kind of like murder. You're stolen. You came close, but you didn't allow it. And your subconscious knew this. Your subconscious what saved you. So what's happening in her chart? Where I would start my reading with her is talk to her about being too soft, being too compromising. When she says no, she feels bad.
That's not better the older I get.
Well, good. And that's the lesson of your chart. That's the lesson of your chart, is to get better and better at saying no. Stop appeasing. Stop complimenting. Stop saying, well, it's my fault. Stop saying mea culpa. Start saying, I'm okay here. It wasn't me. It must have been you. So that Leo rising, if it's Leo rising, that'll really help. So that's really the story of your chart. Because in essence, charts are about one thing. When and how are you going to go back to God? I don't care what anybody says. That's what they're about. Because we only have one drive in us, and our drive is to go home. Because we're all from there. We're all from this blissful place where nothing ever goes wrong. And we get lost because we get conned into thinking that we're individuals, which we're not. And we want to get back. So what you did before this lifetime is you decided, well, in this lifetime, I'm going to be really giving. I'm going to be real martyristic. I'm going to be really, really giving. And what you did in this lifetime is you went overboard. So with a reading with me, what would happen is I would try to get you to find a nicer balance between being for yourself and still being selfless, between doing both. But it sounds to me like you're already doing that. And that's a very good sign. You see?
Mm-hmm.
So what a transit is, when today's planets go over here, oh my God, is that sensitive? This would have been about 2003. Pluto went over this point around 2003. Because Pluto went into Capricorn. I'm sorry. Pluto went into Capricorn 2008. This would have been about 2005. Pluto went over this point. You can tell it's a sensitive point. So when the planets go over this point, or this point, or this point, that's when big things happen with this story. Now, I'm going to end it there. And if you want to follow up with a private reading, that's up to you. Because thank you very much, Felicia. I want to go on to many different types of charts. I've got the chart ready for Albert Einstein. I thought this would be very interesting. Okay, let me get it on your screen. See, you really learn by seeing lots of charts. Yes, Mr. Einstein was a Pisces. Now, I want you to notice something right away. One of the things you do in astrology is you notice a pattern. This is called a clear bucket pattern. See the bucket? Here's the handle. There's the bucket. There's the handle. This is Uranus in Virgo. Now, Uranus took 70, it entered Virgo about 1878. He was born in 1879. It stayed there for 7 years. But his Uranus in Virgo is extremely powerful because it's out there by itself on the bucket handle. So this is his ability to go out there and to Virgo it. Well, if you can go out in the skies and Virgo something, that means you can go out and understand it and label it and figure it out. Part of his reason why he did all the atomic, subatomic work. We notice he's a Pisces, and wonderfully he has a moon in Sag. And that's where you see the pictures of him going, he was a joker. He had fun. And the good side of Sun in Pisces, Moon in Sag, is that the Sag gets him to have more fun, and Pisces aren't necessarily fun. They're very mild, and they're very loving, and they're very open, and they're somewhat spaced out. Because that's why he almost flunked out of school, because he was spaced out. He was off drifting in his imagination. The trouble with Sun in Pisces, Moon in Sag, is that he gets too spaced out, too spread out, too mutable. Cancer is rising. So your three main things, your Sun is in Pisces, the Moon is in Sag, and Cancer is rising. So we know with the Cancer rising that the Moon is the ruler of the chart because the Moon rules the sign that is rising. What is the planet that rules the sign that is rising? So he was very sensitive. Even though he's fun-loving, he was a very sensitive man. And he tells you through all of the millions of posters you've seen about it, that your imagination is much more worthwhile to you than your intellect. So Cancer's sensitive. Sun in the 9th house is a very philosophical place, a very academic placing, 4 planets in the academic house, the 9th house. This is Eris, which was not known to us till 2015. Leave it go for a minute. Mercury's next to Saturn, 1 degree away. And this is why your old books have this stuff incorrect. Your Mercury is your mind, and it's in Aries. So that's a mind is very adventurous. But the old books are really bad when they talk about Saturn because they'll teach you about, well, this is a slow learner. Perhaps he was. We know he flunked mathematics. But the old books tend to talk too much about the bad side of Saturn, and they don't talk about the positive side, which is his ability to define it. He's the definer of all time. Who has been a better definer than Einstein? He went out there into the Piscean mist and came back with a little tiny formula. That's what I call defining. So too many books, they emphasize the Saturn restrictive qualities too much. And I'm here to tell you with experience, strong Saturns make the person. Almost everybody that's popular, anybody's ever done anything of critical import, has a very strong Saturn because it's frustrating. He's so frustrated mentally that he has to continually work on his mind. This guy was working his whole 80 years on his mind, working on the mind. Now Saturn's at 4, the midheaven is 11, here's Venus at 16, 17. The Venus is at 16. The Venus is square to the ascendant. This is 11. That's 16. So we know something critical happened to him when he was 8. When he was 12, because this planet moved 12 degrees till it hit Venus. 4 to 16 is 12 degrees. So we want to know from him what happened during his 12th year. Very critical. Now, I know for a fact, I don't want to get into that yet. So, notice the Jupiter-Uranus opposition, which is a big deal. Jupiter 27, Uranus at 1. It's out of sign because if it was in sign, the Aquarian planet would be opposite a planet in Leo. But it's not. It's opposite a planet in Virgo. The Virgo would be opposite a planet at 1 degree of Pisces, but it's not. It's out of sign, but yet it's an opposition. It's a 4-degree opposition. Jupiter went opposite Uranus. When Jupiter aspects Uranus, you got the Jupiter wildness and wanting to expand, and the Uranus wildness and wanting to just do whatever you want. It would almost make you reckless. Just wanting something too quickly. I got to get this done. Got to get this done. Excitability. What it did to him was it excited his mind, and he just had this drive to keep on pushing till he understood the cosmos. Because all of that energy of Jupiter-Uranus, which goes back and forth, which really could have got him into a lot of trouble, but his Saturn calmed him down. Saturn was on his Mercury. Saturn saved his chart. He could have been a wild, crazy guy with Jupiter-Uranus. But the Saturn was so present right there on his mind. The Jupiter-Uranus has a T-square. Look. So this wildness, which probably is indicated by some of the wildness that he went through in his upbringing, especially around age 4, because they're 4 degrees from hitting each other. Instability of Uranus sends all of its energy to Pluto in Taurus. Now, you want to talk about blowing up the atom? Pluto in Taurus. This Pluto is heavily, heavily exaggerated. And what did he do after the Manhattan Project? He went to the president and told him, it's the worst thing I ever did. I should have never done this kind of work. To know that you guys would start using it to bomb and kill people because he's so sensitive. So he was very heartbroken at the work that he did. But you see the tremendous energy behind that Pluto. And it's in Taurus. Taurus is the guts, the stuff, the earth, the things that are fixed. And he dug down into it and buried into it until he figured it out. What allowed him to figure it out? The Saturn next to his Mercury, and the fact that Uranus is down there in Virgo. Now, I'm not going to go into it now, but when Neptune went over a bunch of his planets, he was 25 years old, and you won't believe this, but almost everybody I've ever studied, almost everybody does their main work when they're 25. The Beatles, the Bee Gees, the Beach Boys, artists, writers, when you're 25. Astrologically, it doesn't make any sense. Nothing happens at age 25 astrologically. Happens at 24, happens at 28. Most enlightenment, Hermann Hesse, the great gurus, happens at age 35, 36. Consistently, Yogananda, Ram Dass, that happens at 35, 36. Because of the Neptune transits and Einstein's chart, that's when he got, 2 Nobel Prizes and figured out 4 of the basic laws of physics. All when he's 25. He lived to be almost 80, I think, 1952, and really didn't figure out anything else. He came across quantum mechanics, which are very Uranian. He didn't like it because he said God doesn't play dice. Okay, let's go look at him again. So we see the Chiron is with Neptune, even though Chiron was not to be seen until 1977. It was still there. Some people who are really astute picked up the energy of Chiron before the collective did. Chiron is about fixing people, fixing the wounds of the world, and it's right next to Neptune, his ruling planet. So we see in his chart, the main thing is the Jupiter opposite Uranus, sending tremendous energy towards that Pluto in Taurus. This is what split the atom. I'm going to move on because there's so many charts to see. From best to worst, here's Hitler. Now, Hitler's chart will really fool you unless you look at it really closely. He was an artist. He was a very frustrated artist. He had a very cruel father. Born in Austria. Here's the Venus and Mars together. This is not something you'd figure out on your own, but if you read Arroyo, his book on chart analysis, Venus and Mars together almost always is a narcissist. The exception is sometimes when the Venus and Mars are in Virgo or in Pisces. The loving circle is just, there's just a loop here, loving yourself, being enamored with yourself. The receptive nature of Venus, the aggressive nature of Mars, just loving himself. And that Venus being exemplified here is why he loved art. Now you notice here, this is very much a question that I still research. Is this a bucket pattern or not? Well, it's kind of hard to tell. Is this a bucket that goes to Uranus? Is this a bucket that goes to Moon Jupiter? We don't know. It's very hard to tell. There are other bucket shapes too. What do we find in his 10th house? Saturn in Leo. This is a guy who wants to sit on the throne. He wants to dominate the world. Where did it come from? How many degrees between the midheaven and the Saturn? Age 9. Something happened when he was 9. It happened on purpose. He had it all set up before his birth. Something happened around age 9 that I guarantee you he wasn't going to take second place anymore. Okay? Now, here's Neptune and Pluto, two massive planets. This is a generational thing because these two planets don't run into each other except maybe every couple hundred years. So the Neptune-Pluto conjoined, Neptune being faster moving than Pluto, because it's closer to the sun than Pluto, it would have conjoined somewhere around 1892, 1893. So his whole generation or subgeneration had this Neptune-Pluto conjunction in Gemini. So in astrology, he would be known as part of the Neptune-Pluto generation because it moves so slowly, probably 30 years until they got out of each other's way. And the Neptune-Pluto is very hard to interpret because they're very outer planets. But they have to do with things like the Holocaust. When you get universal energies, you're dealing with broad issues of the whole cosmos or broad issues on the earth. Now remember, this guy was a Taurus. So was Saddam Hussein, so was so many of our despots. But usually Tauruses are very content at home. They don't operate on a big circle. They don't operate on a big, wide scale. They certainly don't try to take over the world, which he did. All right, take a look here. Saturn, square to Venus, Mars. Saturn in Leo, square to Venus and Mars. The exact square would be over here at 16 degrees, or the 13 back to these two at 13. So it's within 3 degrees. This is a 3-degree square. This is his father's cruelty. So I will guarantee you that these 3 planets are the heart of what drove Hitler. Okay, it was his frustration in wanting to get even with his father. That's what it was about. Why? Because most time, not always, Saturn represents your dad, the moon represents your mother. Sometimes Saturn will represent your mom if your dad is weak and the mom is wearing the pants in the family. Many of our really cruel leaders have had moon in Capricorn. Many of them. I know people that have moon in Capricorn. It's wonderful. I know people have moon in Capricorn. It's not. It's not a good place for the moon. Where is the moon ruler? Opposite. The moon rules Cancer. So it's in its detriment when it's opposite. The moon in Capricorn is not a good placement for the moon. Why? Because the moon is loving and it's nurturing and it's your big soft couch. Come on over to my house. Let's all eat. Let's all be cozy. Well, the moon in Capricorn is not real touchy-feely. And many, many of our despots have moon in Capricorn. Saddam Hussein, a lot of them who can be cruel and not even blink an eye. But still, you got a guy who killed 6 million Jews. Where does something that heavyweight come from this little chart? We haven't seen it. You have to dig deeper. This Pluto and Neptune is in the 8th house. So he was really obsessed with, the problem is out there. If we go kill the vermin, I'll be okay. He projected his own poison outward. This is a big part of the chart because the 8th house is heavy-duty place. Dark, the occult, the power of a country, the finances of the entire country, finances of the world. It's my opinion that this birth chart is off, even though he had his own astrologer who had a lot to do with guiding his movements. I believe this Uranus is closer to the ascendant. This Uranus is 19, the ascendant's 26. So this Uranus is 7 degrees away. I believe that Uranus was a lot closer because that would make him maniacal. An afflicted Uranus can make you very maniacal. And notice Mercury opposite Uranus. Okay, we saw it earlier. It was going this way. Now we're seeing it again. The Mercury is in Aries. I will be heard. Me, I will lead. I will carve through the crowd. Opposite Uranus. Sure, go do it. I'm going to do it. Well, go do it. I'm going to do it. Go do it. Very dangerous. This, in effect, I don't know for sure, but this kind of acts like a bucket pattern to Uranus. And the Uranus is just too wild, too crazy, too stressed. So, I don't want you to feel bad if you can't understand the essence of these charts. That takes a long time. But what am I doing? I'm looking at a planet that's in a sign. That tells me what the planet is like. If it's Mars and it's aggressive, well, you can be aggressive in many ways. You can be aggressive but careful. You can be aggressive and crazy. If it's the moon, and the moon is loving and nurturing, and the moon is in Cancer, then you want all your doll babies all around you. If the moon is in Aquarius, it's kind of cool. It's not real warm, real friendly. So we've done a lot of analysis of what a planet is like in a sign. Now, when you go to the planets in the houses show you where does the person express that energy in the outer world. Let's go through that again. You're not here to memorize this. I want you to just get a feel for this. Then when you start to read about your own chart, you'll know more. Okay, let's take a look here. The first house, any planet that's in the first house, you're a lot like that planet. Nothing is here, and nothing alarming, and many people have it empty, but you're a lot like that planet. That planet also describes a lot about your early childhood. Also, it describes your body, because life enters the body at this point right there. That's where life enters. The second house, house of money, it's Taurus-like. Even though Scorpio is on the sign on the cusp. It has a lot to do with your self-worth. We know he's got problems with self-worth. He's got Venus ruling Taurus. His ruling planet is Venus in Taurus, and it's square to Saturn. So when it's square to Saturn in Leo, it's about, I'm better than you. It's very competitive. So what happened was his dad continually taught him that he was worthless. He had no value. Or, get this, his dad taught him he had no worth, or he perceived it that way. Doesn't matter which one's true. In his existence, it was true. This is the main problem with Hitler, is the Saturn square to his ruling planet, Venus. Okay, so the second house will tell you other things about the person's self-worth. The third house tells you about the mind. What is the mind like? And he had some pleasant sides to himself. You see pictures of him smiling and joking. He had some pleasantries to himself. The fourth house is the house of the home. Well, we know the home in the early years had to be really disruptive. We don't know what happened, but what sign is there? Aquarius. What's the ruler of Aquarius? Uranus. So this really touchy, explosive Uranus ruled his home. The planet that rules the sign that's on the cusp, the planet is the ruler of that house. The fifth house, his children, creativity, his work, sixth house, seventh house, his relationships, and also the role that he wants to play in in society. So I'll guarantee you when we put the planets on here in 1941 and 1945, with the transiting planets on the outer ring, we would see this being bombarded because he tried to take over the world and he failed. The 8th house we see is very heavy duty. The 9th house is philosophy, very much affected by this opposition. 10th house is critical. I told you age 9, Saturn up there. His groups and associations, that's the 11th house. His wishes, hopes and wishes. The 12th, the unseen. What's going on behind the scene? So, what I was telling you, we take the planets and put them in the signs, then we put them in the houses. That will start giving you a further clarity of how that planet's operating. Then what you see more and more as I've gone through these charts, how one opposite one that is square to one that is trine to one, they make the planets operate differently. One's in my way, I can't do anything, you're always here. One's over here and I blend perfectly with you. Everything I do, I support you. Everything you do, I support you. Okay, sometimes the trines are wonderful. The sextiles are wonderful. The squares not so much, the conjunctions not so much, the oppositions not so much. That's what we're going to do over and over and over in every chart. Now, who's getting an idea of this? Is it starting to sink in? You better raise your hand, Wendell. Okay. All right. Well, if it's not, it's okay. I don't want you to think this is too much for me. I cannot do it. Because when you're new at this, you're going to get a little tiny idea. And what you need to know a few key words for each sign, each planet, each house. And at the beginning, you're going to be very clumsy. It's really hard to combine. It's a real art to combine them and bring out the right side of that archetype. It's not this part of the archetype, it's that part of the archetype. So it just takes time. And don't be impatient with yourself. As you notice, there are very, very few good astrologers in the world. There just are. It's really hard to do. And you're probably not going to end up a professional astrologer, but that's okay. You'll probably end up, Marcia, I'm glad you're with us. You'll probably end up using it in your art, using it in your job, using it as a masseuse, using it in your business. It will help understand things. I'm going to go to Marcia here in a minute, but I want to explain to you what's going on now is so atypical. With Eris square to Pluto, it's so atypical of any other time because we're getting hit so hard at the collective level. It's happening inside your chart, my chart. But it's such a outer planet, the two outer planets, Pluto and Eris, are squaring each other. And that's why we're worried about touching something with our fingertip. It's collective. Why is it happening? It's because we have not been succeeding in living together collectively. That's why. Pluto's been warning us since heaven knows when, at least since 08. Did we change? No. Dollar sign, dollar sign, dollar sign, dollar sign. Now look at us. Where's your dollars now? Where's your dollars now, America? Why Italy? Why China? So it's happening on such a collective level. Your chart will tell you a lot about you, but there's a part of your chart that it just goes beyond you. In other words, when 2,000 people die on the Titanic, they didn't all have bad charts that day. When 6 million people die in the Holocaust, you didn't have 6 million charts bad. It happens at the collective level. And us being so worried about our ego, so worried about our stuff, so worried about our money, we never notice the collective because we're so damn concerned with being an individual. But what's happening to modern man? Modern man is becoming more and more and more and more aware of the collective level that Jung taught about. So we're getting completely blasted by these two. This may bring an end to civilization. Who knows? It may not. I don't know. But I do know the planets are fed up with us, which means we're fed up with ourselves. And we need corrective action. That's Eris. Eris doesn't want any more talking about it. No more, I don't need any more damn talk about it. So that's why things are heavy. So you saw in this chart tonight, these several charts, that I showed you the main pieces in the chart. I showed you where they operated. I pointed out T-squares to you, how the energy is like a triangle and goes to that point. I showed you planets are opposite each other, or they fight each other. Next week, we're going to get into transits. Where were the planets in 1925 when, or 1905 when Einstein had all his major theories? Where were the planets in 1945 when the USA went through such victories? Where are the planets now? We know that. Marcia, I'm not taking questions at this time. I'll get to you in a few minutes. Okay, got to continue. I want to show you another chart. Okay, let's look at Gandhi. Gandhi's a really amazing character. All right, as you already knew. Gandhi was a 12th house Libra. The moon is in Leo, which is really good, because when you got too much Libra, you tend to be too peace-oriented. You don't want to ruffle any feathers. Moon in Leo doesn't care, ruffle away, because I'm here, okay? But the secret to his chart, Mercury in Scorpio, Scorpio rising, Venus in Scorpio, Mars in Scorpio. I will bring you down with my silence. You think I won't? Yes, that's because Scorpio is the sign of willpower. How do you think he brought the Brits down? He did it. Well, Felicia, you're welcome, dear. How did he do it? He did it because he knew he was right. He knew he had to be unyielding, and something in him had to become a martyr. They had to stand up and take these beatings from the British soldiers. Heavy duty. Now, what happens with somebody like Gandhi is he's operating at a collective level. He's no longer operating at an individual level. The collective has picked him. Now, that's entirely different, hard stuff to elucidate. You just have to do astrology over and over till you get better at it. Let's go back and forth with him. Okay, so we see that usually the peace-loving Libra, he's got a moon in Leo, he's got Scorpio rising. We know the Mercury is extremely powerful because it's on the ascendant. You draw this Mercury big. That means this man was a powerhouse mind. Could you see somebody sitting down with him and trying to argue with him? It ain't going to happen. Look here. Look closely. Look at the numbers. Pluto at 17, Jupiter at 20, Venus at Mars 16, 18. So what this acts like two planets opposite two planets, okay? What does it mean? Well, Venus opposite Pluto usually means something. He was battling to get out of his lower caste, because India's very caste oriented. Mars opposite Pluto, he was battling to, this is beautiful. Mars opposite Pluto is somebody who is targeted as overly bombastic or heavy-handed. In this case, what he did, he said, "You're tough. You're the British Empire. I'll find a way that's even stronger than you." So how did he do it? He used called power versus force. He was smart enough to harness God's energy moving through him instead of talking about it. And the Upanishads and all these books and all this theory and all these wonderful Christian statements, he became it. He became it. He surrendered to because his Mercury in Scorpio was so powerful. His mind was so powerful. And I guarantee you it was not easy for him. I told you the story a couple of weeks ago where he enticed hundreds of thousands of Indians to come to his hometown for a speech that he was going to do. I can't remember the exact details. It was in the movie Gandhi. And they all arrived, hundreds of thousands of people to hear him speak, and he wouldn't come out of his tent. And his wife said, "You're crazy. You got all these people here?" He said, "I'm not going." She said, "Why?" He said, "I don't feel like it." She said, "Why?" "I don't feel like it." Man, there's somebody who can stick to his gun, especially a Libra. He said, my dedication is not, I'm paraphrasing. He said, "My dedication is not to consistency. My dedication is to truth." So while he was drawing those people there, that's how he felt. And when they got there, he didn't feel it anymore. Not because of Gandhi's mood, but because the God energy inside him shifted. The thing about Scorpio energy, it's dedicated or it's over-dedicated. Scorpio energy, get some balls. You be dedicated or be over-dedicated. That's what's happening to USA now and the world now. With Pluto being so strong, we're finding out how weak so many of us are. Who's really dedicated to what? Your TV show? Going on a picnic? Your bicycle? Who's really dedicated? You think people around Gandhi that had weak wills, you think they stayed around long? Boy, you bounce right off. He was just so damn intense because of his dedication. Now, and I guarantee you, when 1948 came, the planets were very heavy on this chart, which brought about India's independence. So you're getting the idea. So all this power here, this tremendous battle, and Jupiter-Pluto has a side to it that's about power struggles. You'll know by reading Arroyo. He's in this power struggle, and what does it do? It doesn't send its energy to the moon in Libra. It doesn't send its energy to Venus in Pisces. It sends its energy to moon in Leo. And moon in Leo is, I'm not wrong. It can't be me. So he was humble. He was a powerhouse. A powerhouse. And the Brits knew if they killed him what they were in for. The Brits knew what they were up against. The Brits weren't up against Gandhi. The Brits were up against what was wrong. And his ability to perceive it and to align with it was not Libran, it was Scorpionic. And those two planets opposite Pluto, they pick up extra Scorpio because they're opposite Pluto, ruler of Scorpio. So you get to see the picture. And next week, what we'll do is we will put outer planets on to show you how they trigger events when the inner planets get hit. So I think you've had a real good display tonight of several people's critical points. And you are seeing exceptional people because that's the best way to learn. There's nothing worse than looking at a chart that's real boring. It just doesn't do anything. You talk to the person, they've never done anything. Nice person, you know. That's why charts like Manson and charts like Charlton Heston and these mythical figures that are so big have big, powerful charts. And some charts are so negative that the poor soul just couldn't get out of it. That's Manson's chart. He just couldn't get out of it. Now, I'm going to tell you something. There's not a lot of difference between Manson's chart and Oprah's chart. But Oprah had the balls to fight it and whip it. And Manson didn't. His mother and dad got divorced at an early age. She was a prostitute, alcoholic, eating out of garbage cans. So a lot of factors go into it. But when a chart has lots of lines in it, lots of lines, aspects, that's usually when the person is either torn asunder or they get it together. And most powerful people that you see, the power is coming from squares, it's coming from oppositions, because the planets are fighting so hard that the person has to do something to live with it. They have to integrate it. One of the greatest charts I ever saw, most powerful chart I've ever seen, was Bruce Lee. Because you have 5 planets in Scorpio, and Pluto was square to all 5. Pluto was square to all 5 personal planets in Scorpio. So that's why he's so damn disciplined. You get in the ring with him, you were like in trouble. One of the really magical charts I've ever seen is Carl Jung, because it's so simple. I overlooked it for years. Kept saying, there's nothing here. I kept looking at it. Take a look here, you'll see. You'll see why he was such a master of the subconscious mind. Let's put in Jung. All right. Carl Jung. I'm waiting for it to paint. There it is. Okay, here's Carl Jung, Switzerland, 1875, a Leo. Look how simple this chart is. There aren't many aspects. Got a strong Mars, real strong Sun. The Sun is right on the descendant, 2 degrees away, and a really powerful Neptune. The whole chart is based on this and this. And Neptune is so strong, it squares the Sun. Neptune squares the ascendant. Any planet that squares the ascendant, you're really a lot like that. He's got the Moon. It's 8 degrees away from Pluto. Pluto is 5 degrees away from the nadir. So these two are in the house of his mind, the 3rd house of mind. Moon, Pluto shows a deep, digging mind. Here's Neptune next to Chiron, which is, my God, it's the planet of your destiny, your hero's journey, your archetypal hero's journey. And that's what Jung was all about. So with his strong Neptune and a strong Sun, the Sun is the conscious mind. It's the ego, me. The Neptune is the unconscious mind. It's the spiritual side. It's the nothingness. It's the abyss. That's why he was able, he had to do a lot of work, but that's why he was able to go out into the Netherlands and bring it back into consciousness and explain it. If you've ever read Jung before, he doesn't tell you what he thinks is right. He tells you what's right. No, that dream was not about that. That dream was about this. Not arrogant. That's what the dream was about. The snake, it wasn't that. It was this. He just knew. And when you know something, that's Pluto. And his Pluto has to have strong lines coming into it. It's got to be connected. So once I saw that chart, it really made a lot of sense to me because the Pluto is the underground. It's the deep, dark id. It's the moving. It's why he was entangled so much with Freud for so many years. Anyhow, we're going to stop and take some questions now. So where you should be now, week 9 out of 10, where you should be now is you should have a little bit of an understanding what the signs are like. Going back to that book, If You're Lost, the book will keep you centered because that book talks about the center of each sign, the core. You need more education on the planets. The planets are not easy. Go over the other tapes. All the first 8 classes are all on YouTube. Go over them. I've got lots of articles on my website, starself.com. I got lots of videos. I've talked about all these planets to death. Then when you start to put the planets in the houses, you start to see how that planet is, where is it expressed in life? Now you got your basic energies. Then you start bringing the squares and the trines and you start to see the dynamics. So what I want to warn you about, a couple of things. First of all, don't fall prey to some fake astrologers. Some fake astrologer, the first one I went to in 1971, told me I had no creativity. Mrs. Patrick Murphy, CAC. She told me my Saturn return was going to just about kill me, and then my chart had no talent and all that. And she just shouldn't have been reading for anybody. And 7 years later, I decided, well, I'm going to teach myself. Let's find out if she was really right or not. And she was wrong. Okay. So be real careful if somebody puts a label on you. If you have to, call me. Write down what they said. The good astrologers will talk about tendencies. They'll talk to you about you have an inclination towards this. And what the good astrologer will do will be shut up. They'll shut up and talk to you. The bad astrologer would try to blow your mind and interpret everything. Okay? The good astrologer will see archetypal promise that's there and talk with you about it. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? How did you see it? How did you feel? And you work together. Okay? Don't expect too much of yourself. And especially when you start to interpret, don't be real eager to tell yourself that you were wrong. You're probably right. You just need to work with it some more. Don't give up. Now, I want to take that question that was brewing from the woman I just met. We got MX Oops with us tonight. MX Oops, serious. I'm not going to even ask why. I've seen that other places. Did I lose my, oh, there she is. That's a Pittsburgh number. Anyhow, if Marcia, not Marcia in New York, the Marcia that called this evening from New Jersey. If you're still with us, I'll take your question. I think she's left. Okay, anybody's got a question, raise your hand and we'll get to it. I gave you a lot of stuff tonight. How are you feeling about what you've seen? Who's up now? Who's not chicken? Who's not buck, 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 buck? Look at Peggy's got her hand on her mouth. Marcia Lindsay, she raised her hand. Let me get to you, Marcia. I don't know, I'm not, there you are. There you are. All right. Marcia, go ahead with your...
You unmuted me, Rick.
Yeah, go ahead with your question.
Not me.
Oh, I unmuted the wrong person. All right. All right. Marcia, Lindsay, go ahead.
Hi, Rick.
Hi.
I just wanted to thank you because I didn't have a specific question, but I just, it's helped me a lot to just clarify these houses. So I'm looking forward to seeing, talking with you on Saturday. But I just wanted to thank you.
Well, you are welcome. I'm glad to meet you. I'm looking forward to reading for you. The thing I want to tell you about the houses are, in my experience of 42 years, the people just got it wrong.
Uh-huh.
I mean, they've got what they say is true, but they're not telling you the heart of it. They're not telling you the real core of it. They talk about the fifth house being your kids and parties and stuff. Where's that come from?
Where
Where's
does it come from?
It comes from your desire to express yourself.
Okay.
We need to express ourselves. The seventh house isn't about your partners all the time. It's about you socializing. So what I'm saying to you is houses are very misunderstood. So when you see an interpretation about a house, always carry a salt shaker with you. Use a little bit of salt, okay?
Okay.
And study, because I've only written one book, but to explain all of astrology would take years. Okay, Marcia, thank you. Other questions?
Thank you, Rick.
Yep. Other questions? Yeah, Kathleen.
My granddaughter has 6 planets in Scorpio.
All right.
Um,
Where's the sun sign?
Scorpio.
All right. What's the question?
The question is, does this make her like more underground or more determined no matter
Okay.
what she's doing?
Usually, when you have more than one planet in Scorpio, it's too much, in my experience. Usually, when you have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or more, there's just no way you can get around it. Usually, the planets do not make you anything. What you have to do, how old is the girl?
She's 25.
Okay, what you have to do when they're 4 or 5 is you need to start understanding what your actions are doing, and you need to nip it in the bud when they start to manipulate. Okay? Because they're manipulators. Now, she's got the potential to be extremely beautiful on the inside and the out. She can be a powerhouse. But what happens with too much Scorpio, the problem with that much Scorpio is that you're over dedicated. And you don't have any patience at all with yourself when you're imperfect. And the whole secret to somebody with that much Scorpio is, do they hate themselves? And it's all about learning self-compassion. And if she can't learn self-compassion, there's no hope for her and anybody. No matter who she's around, she will abuse them if she can't learn self-compassion. Now, the good thing is, Scorpio is the sign that has the ability to go down in the mud and come out of it. Just because their willpower is so powerful, they can do it. But the problem with it is the desires are so strong that their normal, healthy impetus is, I want to blend with you. Our Scorpios, I want to be with you, close with you. Honey, let's be close. 1 and 1 makes 10,000. But that becomes so strong that it becomes tenacious and wants to eat the other, wants to eat them up. So it's very tough when you have so much energy like that, because you'll have a tendency, much worse than the males, much worse. You'll have a tendency to want to devour. You'll often find Scorpios with these little lighthearted Gemini women or like Gemini men. They're always with these beings of light that have great light in their eyes. What did Joni Mitchell say? Scorpio. Hey Gira, one of her famous albums. She's pictured in a black costume. She's shaped like a crow. She's ice skating in a black and white photograph. And the lyrics are, I'm like a black crow and I'm flying in a velvet sky and I'm diving down on every shining thing. The healthy part of that is I see your light and I want to merge with you, but becomes quickly sucking from. So your granddaughter
Yes,
She can do it. She can turn it around, but it all depends on whether she. One of the problems Scorpios have is they think everybody else is like them, and they're not. People can't handle the heat in her kitchen.
right.
They can't handle it. So she thinks everybody's out to betray her. Everybody's out to betray her. So she's got to learn self-compassion. Okay. From there,
Okay.
everything will change. But it's not hopeless. But I've seen a lot of charts where there's too much. And if you find that the negative attributes are already implanted and too strong, then you need to get out. Get away from it. Because it's just so much of a hellish type existence. It's all about the boiler. When you're around people like that, you can the boiler in the boiler room is just going whoa, whoa, whoa. You can sense it. You can feel this boiler. Okay, what do you
She
think?
was into heroin.
It's a he?
She was into,
Yeah,
She.
yeah. She had to numb it
She.
somehow. This is very much
Yeah.
Charles Manson's chart was very much like this. So why did Manson do all that stuff? I found out with the killings of Sharon Tate and all. He did it because he was a budding musician, and he was pretty good. And he was denied a record contract, and that's why he went after those people. But the manipulation was awful. But you saw people around him were mesmerized by his charisma.
yeah,
Well, she's got that ability to be very charismatic, but she's got to learn to love herself and accept that she can't be there at all times for everybody. She's got to accept that she's human and she can't be perfectly dedicated to everything. Because that's the problem with Scorpio. They get too over dedicated. Does that make sense?
yes.
All right. That's
So
your
she
take.
can rise above it.
She can, but it ain't gonna be simple. And I would have to do a lot of reading for her and look very carefully at the past life and see what her history was like, because it's just so damn intense that other parts of the chart can't vibrate. They can't come to life because the
Right.
wanting to devour is so strong that nothing else can vibrate. Thank you, Kathleen.
Right. Thank you.
Yes, time for one more question. Diane, yeah, I will try to get to Susan too. Diane, go ahead, dear.
So my sun, moon, and Pluto are in a grand trine. My
Sun,
sun is,
moon, and Pluto. Very, very good. What sign?
sun's Aries, moon is Sag, and Pluto is Leo.
A fire triangle. Wow. Wonderful. A fire grand trine is wonderful. What?
Can you say more about what that signifies?
Yeah, I don't have the chart, but yeah. I got your chart here somewhere. Yeah, what it is somebody, sun, moon, and Pluto. It's somebody that really, really takes for granted how powerful they are. If I played King of the Hill with you, I'd never get you off. You'd be on top the whole time. You just got a winning type of energy, highly spirited, very strong spiritual strength. This comes from living many lifetimes and being very spiritually dedicated and doing your work. When your sun and moon are trine, a friend of mine has sun moon trine, and she has had a lot of hardship. And man, no matter how many times you punch her, boom, 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 she just comes out on her feet. It's just really, really strong. And you put Pluto in the middle, you got an excessively strong chart now. I don't care what the rest of your chart says. There'll be troubles with certain points. But Sun, Moon, Pluto means you're essentially, a grand trine is, that element is so strong in your chart that you don't need anybody else to give you any of it. The problem with a grand trine is you take it for granted. So
Okay.
you take for granted how much you can do, fire, how much you can do and get done. You take it for granted and you think everybody else is like that. They're not. People get tired. Not you. They get tired, not you. Fiery, strong spirit. It's a very wonderful Grand Trine. It's very rare. I've not seen it many times, but that's what I will say about it. Does it make sense to you?
Yes, I was wondering, like, was there something particular about a grand trine versus just a trine?
Oh, yeah. You got 3 trines, which becomes 100. It's the problem with it. The strength of a grand trine is it's self-reflecting. Whatever you need, you get it from inside. The problem with a grand trine in air is they're so strong mentally that they never get help from outside. So they're too dependent on their own mind. The grand trine in water means they emotionally are so strong, but they forget that there is value going outside yourself and saying, I don't know it all. I need to get some support emotionally. So what happens with you is you get over cocky. You get overconfident about leading yourself because you're so darn good at it. But sometimes you could benefit by going outside of yourself and discussing with other people and pick up on their fire attitudes. Okay? Kind of hard to explain. Yes, thank you. And now, Susan, will be the last question of the evening. Where are you, Susan?
Hi, Pittsburgh.
Oh, good. Good old Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Stacy Custard. What's your question, dear?
You had mentioned in one of the previous videos something about Pluto being on or near the ascent.
Ascendant?
And yeah,
Who's ascendant?
mine. So, well, you had just mentioned something about Pluto on,
Do you have Capricorn rising?
Scorpio rising.
Well, then Pluto's over in Capricorn. You have Scorpio rising, which means that your Mars placement rules your chart.
Whenever I look at my chart, it says that Pluto is 7 degrees of Scorpio.
Okay, 7 degrees of Scorpio. So
And
you're born about 88?
87.
All right.
So I wasn't sure. You had mentioned something about when Pluto was right there, and I didn't know if you could expand on that a little bit. I forget
Well,
exactly
do you
what
mean transiting Pluto going by?
No, you mentioned something about whenever Pluto's right on the ascendant there.
Usually when you're born, if Pluto is nearby, but you got it in Scorpio, what's your rising sign?
No, my rising's. That's why I'm getting confused, because in my chart, my rising sign is Scorpio.
And your Pluto is also in Scorpio.
Yeah.
Okay, what is your rising degree?
6.
And where's Pluto?
7.
All right, that's heavy duty.
Okay.
What is
you had
your
mentioned
sun? What is your sun sign?
Leo.
Okay, I don't care if you're a Leo, you are very scorpionic.
Okay.
But here's your ascendant. I gotta do it this way. It's backward on my screen. Here's your ascendant, and your Pluto's right there.
Right.
Degree away. I guarantee you, when you're around 1 year of age, you almost died. Guaranteed.
1?
Something happened around 6 months, 1 year, 1 year and a half. I'd have to analyze it. But when Pluto's that close to a line like that, it usually means early death. And since you obviously got past it, what happens is, let's say Pluto's 5 degrees away. When you're age 5, you get introduced to death earlier than other people do. It's not age appropriate. You may read it in a book. You may see Old Yeller and see the dog die. You just get introduced to the principle of death or the principle of sex too early that your mind can't handle it. So in your case, I would interview you probably at age 1. You probably experienced something that was way beyond your nervous system's ability, but it's probably deeply repressed because you're just too young. But the fact is, when Pluto's, as the black cat walks across the screen, okay, when Pluto's at 1 degree from the ascendant, it means you're very much like that planet.
Okay.
I told you the first house. So you're very scorpionic. So you're not the typical Leo. You're not the typical bouncy, fiery Leo. You're really, really stubborn from the combination of Pluto and the sun.
And I have like 4 or 5 charts and 4 or 5 planets in Leo too.
4 or 5 planets in Leo. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think the Pluto is very good for you because the excess Leo can make you too arrogant. It can make you too self-important. Pluto in Scorpio will change that because Pluto in Scorpio is going to make sure that you're interested in something beyond you. Beyond you.
Well, that's what I've been trying to figure out. The last 5 years have been not good, awful, lots of stuff.
Well, that's
So,
because the other planet's hitting you.
yeah, well, I felt like my life shifted a lot of like my perceptions of me versus others shifted about 5.5 years ago. And that's why I've been trying to delve into like the Leo
Yeah.
versus the Scorpio
I
stuff.
could definitely do that for you, but that's not something for the public to get involved in because that means revealing the heart of the chart, going
Right.
into deeply personal stuff, which I'd be glad to do for you if you want. But
Perfect. Thank you.
you can be guaranteed that heavy planets went over sensitive points.
Okay.
So
So it
that-
wasn't the Pluto in that spot that was doing that.
well, the Pluto, I'll say this. What did you say? It was 7 degrees, 8 degrees?
7.
You better watch out in the next couple of years because Uranus is coming up at 7 Taurus.
Okay.
Here's your Pluto and all your ascendant. Pluto's up at 7 now. It's 5 degrees, 6 degrees now. Pluto's getting to 7. It's going to square it.
Okay.
See? And it's going to release that power. And that's a tremendous amount of power. So you should be feeling like you got it coming. You can feel it coming. You're about to kick some butt. You're about to really roll over. And you got to realize this has nothing to do with anybody else. This is your time. It is your time for your power to get released. And the more you release it consciously and willingly, the less trouble you'll have. And the more victory you'll have. My son has it going on now. And Uranus is activating his chart in a similar fashion, opposite Pluto.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just releasing all kind of power, and he's getting really involved and really advancing, but he's going with it. He's going with it because he's been taught since he was really little, you know. But I'd be glad to look at it for you if you desire. Okay, everybody, thank you for hanging in there. I know that it's a mouthful called astrology. Really appreciate you all sticking there, and you'll get your certificates next week. Unless hundreds of thousands of people die, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen next week. I'll see you next Thursday night for the final evening, week 10. Thank you all. Please be safe, okay? Every time, be nice, be safe. Get a mask, get a mask. Night. Thank you, YouTubers.